good morning, good afternoon, good evening for those of you joining in different parts of the world. So we'll just give it a minute longer to see where everyone is coming from. Thanks again for joining us today. Hopefully we'll have some really good insights for you and some insights into what our alumni have been doing so far and what their areas of interest are. So I think we'll go ahead and make a start. So thank you for taking the time to join us today, and welcome to the third episode in our Alumni in Action Leveraging Finance for Social Impact webinar series. We are joined by guest alumni from our Executive Education Impact Finance programs here at the University of Oxford Saïd Business School. So this webinar will last about an hour and will be recorded and sent out in a follow-up email within the next week. So for those that couldn't make it, or for any content that you feel like you've missed on a slide, there will be an opportunity to view again. So there will also be time for some Q&A with each of our speakers, as well as a session at the end. So please do put your questions in the Q&A section rather than in the chat, and hopefully we can get those answered for you. So it looks like we've got people coming from South Africa and Canada. We've got France, the UK, Brazil, India, Nigeria, Colombia, quite a diverse group. So well done and for joining us. So hopefully this webinar will provide a unique opportunity to hear directly from our alumni about the transformative impact of our programs and how that shaped their career goals and the innovative projects they've been working on since. So I'll give you a little bit of an introduction to my team. If we can change the slides for that. Yep, there we go. So my name is Tennille Ballard. I'm one of the program consultants supporting our impact portfolio of programs within executive education. And this includes impact measurement program, which takes place in June, the sustainable business program in September, the impact finance innovations program in November, and the impact investing program, which has just been completed in February, but is due to return again in February of 2026. So I'm joined today by my colleague, Christine Homaki. Christine, would you like to say a quick hello?
Thank you so much, Tennille, and thank you so much to everyone joining us today. And I really hope that this webinar proves valuable in starting your executive education journey with us. As Tennille mentioned, my name is Christine Homaki, and I'm one of the senior program consultants within executive education. And I am leading our impact portfolio with Tennille, and I hope to get to speak with each and every one of you in the future. So keep an eye out for our contact details at the end of the webinar, and please scan our QR codes to connect on LinkedIn. And you can also screenshot our email addresses at the end. Over to you, Tennille.
So we are delighted to have with us today three of our esteemed alumni, Christian, Milek, and Tommaso, who have attended between them three of our current impact finance programs. So as a reminder, if you do have any questions for our alumni panel, please put them in the Q&A section. So I will firstly pass over to our 2024 Impact Investing and Impact Measurement alumni, Christian Jules, to introduce himself and tell us about his work. Over to you, Christian.
Thanks so much, Neil. Hopefully you guys can see me okay. I'm connected with a phone, I'm afraid, so hopefully it's not too bad. Just before we get started, I guess I give a bit of background to kind of what I do and a bit of context as to why I looked into doing a couple of courses within Impact. So I work for a firm called Applicants Capital Partners. We're a private credit firm investing in the lower middle market, focusing on Spain and the UK and Ireland. About 3 years ago, we did a pivot from a kind of sector agnostic approach towards a much more kind of concrete focus around sustainability and specifically impact. I had been championing that for quite some time, and so made sense in a way for me to kind of lead that progress or pivot, let's say. I come from an investment background, so I've been here almost 10 years. I primarily worked in the investment team, but when we did this pivot, I took on the mantle of head of ESG and impact, and that really included building everything out from scratch. So the firm was a bit late to the game in terms of how we incorporate ESG into deal analysis, underwriting, execution, monitoring, all the way through to exit. And so my responsibilities were defining all of that stuff, integrating it into the investment processes, and concretely and more relevantly for the discussion today was building out the impact piece. And this manifested itself into two strategies, investment strategies. The first one is the primary one, which was, I guess, the heavy lift, which was a private credit Article 9 impact fund. And the second one is a sustainable asset-based lending fund, which is based in the UK. So I did this a bit the wrong way around. Hopefully this is a lesson that everyone can learn on the call, but I kind of picked this up, did all the hard work for 2 years, and then realized actually there's probably a course that I should do on this to kind of help me along with the journey. Started looking into it and found obviously Oxford's course. Looked around at a couple of other offers in the market. I think there was one at London Business School that had been running maybe a year, if that. I think maybe a year when I'd been going, but the two courses that I looked at Oxford had been going for over 10 years. And I think that really stood out. I wanted to, obviously impact investing within private markets is still relatively nascent. And so I wanted to focus on something that had, some real credibility and a track record of delivering executive education to really a range of backgrounds. I mean, in our cohort, I think we were about 40 or so in both courses, very international, very diverse in terms of the kind of people in the group, investment professionals, impact professionals who've got kind of less of a financial focus. We had policymakers, we had governments, we had all kinds of people, and it was really interesting to have a very kind of diversified view. Very diversified view on impact and the challenges within kind of accelerating capital into impactful businesses. And the second point I think is, the impact element is completely integrated into Saeed across the MBA and the business school in general. And I think that lends a lot of credibility to it. The professors and the guest faculty across the two courses were really fantastic. So it's obviously, as everyone knows, it's kind of it's a full week, but I mean, it's pretty relentless. It starts early, and there's drinks in the evenings, and you're meeting people and going out for dinner. And for those of you who don't know Oxford, it's a beautiful city, great place to explore, and it was just a really great environment. I loved it, and genuinely had a very good time. Also, I think from my perspective, it's slightly unique in the sense that in the first course, I met one of the professors, Alex Nichols, got on very well with Alex, and we started talking, and it transpired that we basically had an idea in common, which was how do we look past traditional valuation methodologies for impact businesses? And so I did the courses last year, and this conversation, started in February, began, evolved, continued, and iterated into a body of work, and we've just finished a 90-page white paper on this, which will be published through an entity within Oxford University. I guess it depends a little bit on final iterations, but probably Q3 this year, which I'm extremely proud of, and it's been very helpful for me to kind of engage with other impact professionals. Not to go too much into the paper and the technicalities of it, but effectively we're looking at value creation of impactful businesses beyond cash flows, and the concept that a business that is delivering environmental or social impact is worth more than the sum of its initial cash flows. For anyone with a finance background, I guess this is intuitive, but somehow a little bit difficult to understand. But it feels like a very relevant conversation right now. The feedback that we've had from a range of actors across the space, from kind of academics to financial professionals to large cap asset managers, is very positive. And yeah, I think that's a really interesting tangible output from my experience. I think we're in the process of now, in addition to the initial white paper, we're going to write another academic paper, which is focusing on kind of materiality, and how that feeds into accounting with regards to impact as well. And then on the back of this, I've been invited to be a guest speaker at both the courses. So I did my first day, let's say, at Oxford as a guest speaker, which was pretty cool, in February, just gone. And then I'll come back for the impact measurement course. And basically what we're doing is presenting the paper and kind of our views and what we've written about. So yeah, so that's a little bit of a background as to my experience with Oxford and a little bit of context as to where I'm coming from professionally. Danielle, I'm not sure if there's any other points that you'd like me to mention specifically before we go into a Q&A or.
I mean, if anybody has questions for Christian, please drop them in the Q&A now and he can address those directly. But my only question is, how quickly do you think that you were able to sort of implement your learnings from the program, from either of the programs in the real world? Like,
Yeah,
results quickly, or did you feel that this was something
no,
that
definitely.
was evolving over time?
Yeah, so I mean, as I said, I'd kind of designed everything. I'd done all the impact piece, impact quantification, so all of that was kind of done and written up, and we were already presenting to investors and stuff. But I came back immediately from both of the courses and kind of re-underwrote our approach. I was looking at, okay, well, what are we doing from a best practice point of view? Are we adhering to all the things that we need to be adhering to? What does the impact measurement piece look like? Are we, inadvertently being influenced or guided by things that we don't want to be influenced by? Can we maintain an objective opinion? But yeah, I mean, it's an enormous amount of information to digest within a week. You probably need a bit of time to relax afterwards. So, go back to work and just kind of catch up a little bit. But afterwards, the kind of the lag is immediate because it's an infectious week. You're surrounded by a lot of people that are very passionate about the space, and you kind of go back to work very enthusiastic and motivated to make relevant changes. So I would say it's immediate.
Yeah, oh no, that's completely, yeah, I completely understandable. And I hear that from quite a lot of participants that come in and the intensity of the week and having to book a couple days off after they've left
Yeah,
just
exactly.
to soak it all in and things like that. So that's amazing. So I don't have any other questions at the moment. So what we'll do is we'll hand over now to our 2021 Impact Investing and Impact Measurement alumna, Malek DeWint, to introduce herself and tell us about her work. And again, if you have any questions for Christian or going into Malek's session, please do drop them in the Q&A. So Malek, over to you.
Thank you very much, Tonya. Hello, everyone. I'm Melek DeWint. I'm an independent impact measurement and management consultant, and I'm based out of Quebec City, Canada. And I work with social purpose organizations worldwide. I've been working independently as a consultant for the past 2 years. Prior to that, I worked in the nonprofit sector for over 2 decades in senior leadership roles. And impact measurement has been a part of my portfolio since 2013. It was when I took on the responsibility for developing an impact measurement framework for the Global Youth Development Program of the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award Foundation, which is based in the UK, but it works internationally. And I had a chance to work with academic partners and consulting firms in this journey, especially when I was developing the framework. And after it was developed and in the course of implementation, because it is an international organization, I had the opportunity to do the implementation and work alongside national partners from all across the world, from Ghana to Australia, Czech Republic to Canada. And we moved to Canada as a family in 2018, and I was able to move with my job because it was a global role. But I was curious about the IMM community in Canada. So I joined the IMM community of practice of the Innovive program, which was led by McConnell Foundation at the time. Now it's led by Makeway. And I became one of their impact coaches and started supporting Canadian nonprofits and social enterprises in their impact measurement journey. Later on, I wanted to gain further experience in the Canadian context. It was I was in 4.5 years into us living in Canada at the time. And I thought it was time to get a job in Canada. So I left my job with the Duke of Edinburgh's International Foundation and took on a leadership role at Digital Moment. And Digital Moment is a Montreal-based national nonprofit organization, and they work in the space of digital skills education for kids and young people. And as a part of that role, I had the opportunity to lead the first phases of the development of their theory of change and program level impact pathways. When I left this job 2 years ago, a few people in my network, including Karim Harji, the program director of the impact measurement program, encouraged me to consider providing consultancy services in impact measurement and management. And with their encouragement and referrals, I started to provide these services. So some examples from my current work. I started supporting an international client that focuses on promoting technical and vocational education and careers in the development of their organizational theory of change, and also program and actor-based impact pathways. And we also developed a measurement framework and toolkits to measure the impact of one of their key activities that is organized both at international level and national level as well. We recently had the opportunity to implement this toolkit at international level, and the first results have allowed them to back up what they were hearing from their stakeholders over and over again through the years. So now they've got data to back up their anecdotal evidence. And they are also in the process of collectively reviewing and learning from their first set of evidence. And I'm also supporting them in the facilitation of that learning process. And we are also developing a social value model for this same activity to monetize the outcomes experienced by their key stakeholders. So on a more local level, I've been supporting a social enterprise in Toronto in this past 2 years. That aims to break the cycle of furniture poverty by providing low-income individuals and families with gently used secondhand furniture. And their sort of objective aim is to turn their empty housing into a furnished home. They work very closely with social service agencies who support vulnerable communities in Toronto. That's where they get their referrals from. And with this client, we did in the first year started to did an audit of their existing impact measurement activities and identified gaps and areas of development. And following this, we reviewed and refreshed their existing theory of change and developed a measurement framework that aligns with their theory of change. And they also had a social value model. So everything was a little bit sort of detached from each other. So we've spent the first 1.5 years to align all of these already existing activities. And during this process, I was very happy to be able to do lots of stakeholder consultations to shape the work with their clients from vulnerable communities, social service agencies who work with those clients, staff and volunteers. I was able to do focus group interviews and individual interviews with them to actually feed back the their insights into the final form of the theory of change. And last year, we were able to start putting the framework into action, the measurement framework, and collect data from their stakeholders. We have completed the analysis of 2024 impact data the last couple of weeks ago, and they are now incorporating it into their upcoming impact report. So now for this year, what we are focusing on is how we are systematizing and embedding the measurement tools and processes into their day-to-day operations. So in terms of my journey with Site Business School's executive education programs, like Christian, I did 2 programs, Oxford Impact Measurement Program and Oxford Impact Investing Program in 2021. And for me, this was a part of the capacity building efforts of ETKİAP. And ETKİAP is Turkey's first impact investing platform, and one of the founders of the national partner of Global Steering Group for Impact Investment, now known as GSG Impact in Turkey. I'm originally from Turkey, and ETKİAP reached out to me when they were starting to promote impact investing in the country back in 2020, and they were in need of someone who could support the IMM aspect in terms of building resources and a knowledge base in Turkish, and they invited me to get involved. So I was able to secure a scholarship from the Site Business School on the back of supporting this development in Turkey, and the rest of the fees were covered by ETKİAP. And I did the 2 courses back to back with 1 month in between them. And the programs I attended were both online because if you think about 2021, this was the middle of the pandemic. And they were spread across 4 to 5 weeks with 3 hourly sessions twice, if I remember correctly. And for both of the programs, I can say that, I mean, I was amazed how incredibly well curated they were by both Oxford faculty and professionals from the field. I was really blown away. And I don't know if this is how it happens in an in-person course. I don't have experience of that, but the professionals we had, they were joining from all across the world, bringing theory to life and sharing insights and results from their latest work. So perhaps this was one of the advantages of doing this virtually, being able to bring all those people to the program. And I appreciate it actually, Christian, you mentioned that as well, that it was really overwhelming, all that sort of information content, everything that's coming at you. And I appreciated that we basically were able to spread it across 4 to 5 weeks because, as you said, there was a lot to reflect on. And also there was a lot to read in preparation or you wanted to read after the session. So I feel having a break in between session helped me process better and make more out of my learnings and observations during the programs. However, I've missed out on the in-person interactions and bonding with my cohort mates in person. We had sort of group work that we did throughout the courses, but that in-person bonding unfortunately wasn't possible. And I can imagine it's a big part of the experience when you do the programs on site. But I know sometimes there are alumni meetings organized, so I'm hoping to be able to make it to one of those in-person alumni gatherings in Oxford during one of my UK trips.
So that
And
we answered a few of my questions for you, which was basically around what aspects of the Oxford experience did you enjoy the most? Because obviously you've had a very different experience having an online one during the pandemic to the in-person one. So have you been able to sort of reconnect with other alumni outside of the ones that have taken your, you know, were within your cohort? Or how has that experience sort of, you know, led you to stay connected to us?
Well, first of all, we do have a very active WhatsApp group. I think I'm a member of 2 WhatsApp groups because of both of the programs I attended. And from a professional perspective or following what's going on in the world in impact investing, those are great. And sometimes when there's something relevant, we basically touch base very quickly. But maybe I can share one, you know, anecdote which was really nice and interesting. So one of my sort of group mates from the group work, Florencia, basically, Florencia is from Argentina, and she started a program, I think 2 years ago, a master's program. And that master's program took her to 4 different campuses in the world, across the world. And one of the campuses was Montreal, McGill. And so she came to Montreal for a couple of months and she basically pinged me and she said, Melek, I'm in Montreal. I'm thinking of coming to Quebec City. I thought it was beautiful. Are you around? And I said, yes, of course. So anyway, she came, she stayed overnight with my daughter. There was a winter festival at the time, spent a wonderful time. And it was as though I knew her from before. So I said that the bonding was difficult, but maybe it wasn't because we just sort of hit it off as soon as we got together. And so we had that sort of personal social interaction and experience as well. So it doesn't, even though I did it virtually, we got connected with a group of actually other people in the same cohort because they were interested in setting up a national advisory board for impact investing in their countries. That's what it was called then. And we actually, even after the course, organized a kind of webinar, not webinar, but meeting, inviting someone from GSG Impact to come and actually talk to us about that as well. So we carried on that communication with that group. But other than that, whenever something relevant comes up on the WhatsApp group, or now we're connected on LinkedIn as well, it's really easy to reach out to, and people are very receptive and very positive, and they try to help as much as they can. They go above and beyond to actually help or answer your questions. So that has been my experience.
So Lovely. That's lovely to hear. So there is actually one question for you that was dropped into the chat. So we've got someone that said, how did you make sure that regarding the toolkit you had developed was relevant for international entities and some aspects of reporting are specific to local contexts?
So yes, it's a difficult one, trying to create a global framework that can also be locally applicable. So basically, that's how we did it was again based on a lot of stakeholder consultation, and we went and tried to find the common threads that would basically be relevant to all countries. So for example, if we did this exercise in a particular national context, maybe we would be measuring more. But then we would be leaving a few countries out because some of the outcomes maybe wouldn't be very relevant to them. So that's why we identified sort of those key outcomes that would sort of be applicable and also relevant to all national contexts as much as possible. But then again, all those outcomes were experienced differently in different national contexts, and it doesn't even have to be national. Sometimes it is sort of it is even to the point of sort of to the level of neighborhood. But what we were able to do was we also sort of were able to design data management, data collection tools, and we were able to collect data from those particular contexts that also showed us the differences in how they were experiencing those outcomes. So that was one of the things that I was really interested in, looking at how the same outcome was experienced differently in different parts of the world. So I can give an example. So for example, volunteering was one of the things. It was a youth development program. Volunteering was a part of it. And this was before I came to Canada. Every time we did a survey in Canada, all the young people already were volunteering. I was like, where is this coming from? 70% are already volunteering. Then I found out when I came in Canada, especially, for example, in Ontario, there is a system in the systemic education system. It is almost compulsory to do volunteering. So of course everybody is doing volunteering. But for example, when you went to sort of Czech Republic or Slovakia, there wasn't such a culture of volunteering of young people. So it was really interesting to see these differences. And actually this whole sort of exercise and work also brought up those differences and helped the organization to understand better the sort of local circumstances of the organizations that we worked with.
Absolutely, that's amazing. So if you have any questions for Malak, please drop it in the Q&A and we can always pick it up. She can pick it up as and when or address it towards the end of the webinar. So Christian also had a question on how he would apply ESG to SDGs 8 economics and 17th partnership and tie it into business sustainability. So he's answered that in the Q&A section. So if you'd like to have a look at that, I'm sure that he'd be able to walk you through any other aspects of that question. So for now, we will hand over to our 2023 Impact Finance Innovations alumni, Tommaso Busso, to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about his work. So Tommaso, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, Christine, for having us here today. I think great job for getting us over together. We're all quite diverse people, quite diverse backgrounds, so our listeners or our audience can ask questions accordingly depending to their interests. So I'm Tommaso, I'm an associate at Bankers Without Boundaries. It's a UK-based non-for-profit, and we provide consulting mainly to development finance institutions, multilateral development banks, as well as our main client is the European Commission. And our job is to, as we say, provide the investment bankers support to those actors that wouldn't normally be able to receive it. So we're talking about, in this case, about cities, regions, developing countries that normally wouldn't be able to pay for these investment banking services. And the model is to rely on donors, basically donor institutions, whether it's the EIB, the European Commission, the World Bank, and others who pay us to support for sustainable finance endeavors at large, such types of clients, underserved clients. I could say that I was fortunate to have the in-person experience back in November 2023. It was actually extremely rich, and the opportunities of talking and exchanges every night you would stay up until when you were exhausting from the ideas, but it was sort of a falling from exhaustion rather than being running out of ideas. Thing I wanted to say is that we at BWB were always open to find best knowledge in the market, find new solutions out there, and I found that this was a great opportunity to expand my knowledge about financial structuring and about all the ways in which capital can be deployed at different levels. And I can provide some particular examples. So, for instance, one of the sort of intense or training sessions that we had was with Ulf Erlandsson, is the CEO of the Anthropocene Fixed Income Institute. And with him, we delved into the topic of contingency resilience-linked bonds, which was a concept that he has just recently been developed and posted a paper about, that was really trying to utilize the potential for adaptation to increase the credit rating of a country, which would therefore result in a long-term benefit and reduction in borrowing for countries, which is something we definitely do advise a lot of Southeast Asian countries about, African countries about as well, seeing how climate risk is linked to ultimately the cost of debt for some countries. And that was really immediately transferable. At a more company level scale, what we can say is that we really tried to delve deeper into the theory of change activities. So that was probably one of the very first topics of the conversation. And I could immediately go back to my firm and try to be more precise, more, I would say, standardized about the measurement of impact that we did have, but probably not quite as rigorously as we could have. So that was something also that was immediately transferable. In terms of my broader endeavors and current projects that I would like to talk about a bit more, I've been involved recently into this project, again, sponsored by the European Commission, and it's called Definite CCRI. We supported startups in Northern Europe, in particular, Iceland, Finland, Belgium, Germany as well, focused in the field of circular economy. And after a period of project development assistance, our job was also to identify the best financial structures that would help at the same time to account for the impact that was being provided by such circular economy startups, and at the same time be able to provide a cheap capital solutions to these startups. And we explored a few among the ones that we had already studied also in the class. Another one of the projects that we as BWB are really proud of, recently launched, is called the African Capital Hub, and it's sponsored by the Children Investment Fund Foundation, as well as by Optimus Foundation. They are both focused on the topics of education and social impact in Africa. Our job is to, at the same time, identify the projects, provide technical assistance to them, and identify the investors all the way through the identification of the financial structuring, etc. So there's a lot of calculations on how to factor in social KPIs, how to account for long-term social improvement. Education is quite a hard one to measure because it's not just about how many people get schooling or years of schooling, is more about the additionality, is about social improvement, etc. So some things that need to be taken into account that go beyond some, I would say, easier to calculate KPIs in other fields. And in that scenario, we're really working to get as many novel structuring solutions out there. One thing that I remember quite fondly of the topic of the course was the final day when we had our sort of case study, and the idea was to create from scratch a financial structure that would account for quick deployment of capital, for I think, was a malaria outbreak in West Africa, and you had to account for quick deployment of something like 10 million, and then for long term, as KPIs were achieved, something more 100 million. And I think probably getting the numbers wrong, but the idea was really try to engage with the existing capital providers, development organizations, governments, etc. Funnily enough, back then, USAID was one of the major capital providers. This structure wouldn't be quite as accepted today, I guess. Don't rely with that on that as much, but that sort of taught us also about the fact that financial structuring is much more of an art than it is a science. There's a lot of things that are accepted by some capital providers or government based on politics, based on contingencies, based on what topics resonate. So it's really trying to understand all those moving parts, and he also led us to think more critically about what role development finance institutions can have in a broader perspective, because many times we think of them as fixed organization, fixed entities that cannot change, but they can change, and over time they will also adjust to some types of feedback and pressure of the international community and governments as well, respond to electorate. So that's something that goes a bit beyond the mere impact calculation or financial structuring in this regard. Yeah, I think I can see a question by Tiffany. And this is a bit for everybody. I can maybe start giving it a shot. So what I can see is that Tiffany is asking that in the US, many in the impact field have been affected by federal government cuts. And is there any advice for career pivoters? And do you recommend programs for previously working in sustainable development? I could say that before coming to the Oxford class, I'd already been working in sustainable finance consulting, as well as ESG asset management. And there's always more to learn. There's more case studies, more activities. You never exhaust the wide range of existing cases that there are out there. And even if your solution maybe is already pretty good, you can find a better one. And Ani, in my case, she was the main instructor of the class. I think everybody agrees she's a force of nature. So she will always push you to question your ideas or go a step further. So that's what I can suggest. Like, you don't feel that for the fact that you are already an expert, that you cannot learn more. That's what I would say.
So just pass that question as well to Malak and Christian to see if they have anything else that they want to add to that.
Yeah, I definitely echo what Tommaso was saying. As I mentioned, I did it the hard way, did all the kind of work in isolation, and then found out that Oxford existed effectively, and really enjoyed everything about it, and came back and, as I said, kind of scrubbed and scrutinized our approach, and definitely I feel Oxford helped to improve that. I think in terms of what the US is politically, what the US is going through at the moment and how that is reverberating across global markets, it's definitely having an effect on European asset managers as well. However, there are some that are very actively doubling down in this space. And with that, there will be opportunities because they're looking to grow their exposure to sustainable strategies. There's a company called Osmosis. CEO is Ben Deere. Recommend everyone to have a look at him. He's a fantastic guy. Great story. Very charismatic leader. He's actually based in Oxford, but they do listed instruments, focus on impact or sustainable strategies. But they're great, and I just, there's obviously the State Street story that hit the news not too long ago. I think this is an example of people taking a step back from sustainability or ESG incorporation or whatever it might be, and these are leading to big opportunities. That was a $38 billion mandate that got dropped by State Street and will be picked up by somebody else. So Europe continues to be, I think, a little bit of a, it continues to kind of set the pace in terms of sustainability and impact and so on. So if you're coming from a US perspective, having a brand like Oxford on the CV with a stronger route to market within Europe is probably a good idea. I've seen that, Danielle, I've seen that, your point. I'll pop a link into Osmosis now.
Yeah. So there was one other question for Tommaso that was put in the chat that says, which financial models do you use to calculate social benefits? It looks difficult. So that may be a very big question, but do you have any way that you can answer that on a brief scale?
Yeah, definitely. I assume we're talking here about financial structuring or financial structures that you can use to account for different types of social impacts. In this case, there's actually quite a few. BWB worked in the past with the government of Uzbekistan with one of the first thematic bonds for social SDGs. So in this case, it's just similar structure as a green bond. So it's a use of proceeds structure, and there needs to be annual reporting or periodical reporting on the objectives, and the objectives here were SDGs related to education and I think nutrition or something like that. So it was based on different kinds of ways in which school numbers were up, class attendance and similar. So you were breaking that down, and that was actually quite simple model. Then you can have a different types of models, sustainability linked bonds or loans, where you can have a discount on the coupon for achievement of specific objectives, not a use of proceeds here. You can basically just achieve your objectives in different ways, and when you reach maturity, you double check on those, and you can have a discount on your coupon. There's different kinds of layered capital structure. So it's actually not that there's actually quite a few structures and models that you can account for. The complexity in some scenarios was mainly to calculate compared to your starting point or baseline, how this has evolved in education perspective, prospects, etc. But no, there's definitely a lot of tools that you can use to deploy finance and account for the impact, and more organizations are trying to do that.
If I can just build on that, if I may, there is a Norwegian family office that is set about doing impact quantification for all of their investments. In Kareem's course on the impact measurement, I've forgotten the name of the guy who set it up, but he is one of the guest faculty members. And they have a white paper which is available off their website. I think it's available off their website. And they look to standardize impact quantification around a couple of KPIs that are applicable to basically all investments. And the one that they use on the social side is quality adjusted life year, QALY, QALY. If I might just see if I can find that link, in which case I'll pop it in the chat now. Just give me a second.
Yeah, I can also share some links when the call is over about different activities. So
Perfect. And Malek, did you have any tools that you want to share that could be related to that?
From the last topic, I was just actually trying to find a link. Another resource that you may want to look at in terms of quantifying social impact is International Foundation for Valuing Impacts. And they do have a methodology for quantifying social impacts. I'm just dropping it in the, okay. Okay, this is a different one, but yes, valuing impact as well. So that's that. But going back to Tiffany's question about sort of breaking into the impact finance sector or impact investing or sustainable finance. I mean, I'm sort of in that space, if you like, Tiffany, and I do have a background in non-profit organizations and social enterprises. And I have found it difficult to break into the sector without no experience in the finance sector. And it's not just about understanding the concepts, it's about having the experience to have actually worked in that context. So for example, I believe I do have a very good understanding of impact measurement and management in the impact investing context, but I don't have the experience. So now with my sort of engagements in the impact investing ecosystem in Canada and in Turkey, I'm hoping to be able to sort of have sort of that hands-on experience in a real-world impact investing opportunity. But the sector is not that easy to break into. So the importance of doing an Oxford course is, and all of those sort of engagements I have come to me through these two courses I've done. So the course gives you that network that you can start to plug into, and you can start to go and start to talk to people or find opportunities in the absence of that kind of a network. So it's not just the course is very dynamic, and everyone comes and delivers something in the course, faculty or outside of the faculty, sort of professionals from the industry. If you wish, you can stay in touch with them, and they are very positive about that. But it's also that the whole cohort, and it's not just your cohort, it's all of the cohort. So probably both Christian and Tommaso and I are in the same WhatsApp group. And whenever there's something, whenever there's an opportunity, there's an announcement, there's something, we basically see that in that group. So being a part of that kind of a network would help you also to sort of break into that sector. I'm not going to lie, it's not easy. But definitely Oxford programs gives you that network to be able to get you there much quicker.
Definitely. So I guess the last question I have is really for the three of you, and that's really on a brief question here, or a brief answer. What advice would you give to those who are about to start their applications? Either on preparation or just before they come or during the course of the week. What's your best piece of advice? Tommaso, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, in my case was really try to think about the relevance of such program in detail, and why and how I would immediately apply the learnings to my job. I know there's definitely quite a few people are interested in this kind of opportunity, and the level is very high of the people who attend. So you want to show that the content that you can bring is valuable, that you can actually talk about a lot of the experiences and exercises that you've done already. So I would say just show that this is an executive education course, so bring executive expertise, bring the case study expertise, and show how you can actually implement it. Don't I wouldn't necessarily say much more than that. I think that's more than enough as long as you contextualize it.
Christian, any advice from you?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely relevant, but I think a lot of it is also about, genuine interest, passion for the subject. I think is really important. You're going to spend a week with people who are really, on the ground deploying capital into developing markets, or, markets where, I'm focused on developed markets. So the impact lens is not quite the same. Perhaps it's a little bit weaker, let's say, in inverted commas, in terms of putting money into places that need it most. But my view is that it's all accretive. But I think it's, bringing an element of passion to what you're doing, and genuine interest, and making sure that shines through in the application, and should serve you well.
Absolutely. And Malak, anything to add to that?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned in my presentation, I did my courses with scholarship. So I did know about the courses a couple of years before I actually did the courses themselves. So if it wasn't for the scholarship, I wouldn't be able to do it. So I'm assuming there may be people in the audience who may not be able to afford the sort of course fees. So my suggestion would be that to follow on the sort of scholarship application timelines and don't miss them, and give it a go, definitely. And so that's one thing maybe to mention. And the other thing is, I would highly recommend, I think all of us sort of alluded to that a little bit, when you are going to the course, just put your out of office response on and respect it, and tell people that you're not going to be available for that week if you can, of course, if your circumstances allow, because it's a full week. It requires your full attention, time, and energy for you to be able to make the most out of it. And you already said that, Toniel, maybe taking a couple of days off work afterwards to basically put things in order and sort of digest a little bit more. So I would suggest making the planning accordingly.
Absolutely. I think it's really time to take that extra time to reflect and things like that. Obviously, they wrap up on a Friday, so you have the weekend, but sometimes you just need to absorb everything, the momentum, as Christian mentioned, of like it's so immersive, and having that extra time is really important. So thank you so much for to all of our alumni panelists for sharing your important work and for answering our questions. And hopefully, if anyone would like to connect with them, if I could ask my alumni guest speakers to drop their LinkedIns into the chat for anybody that wishes to connect. So I would just like to take a few minutes to talk about our next upcoming webinars. So this is the third in a series of alumni webinars. So keep an eye out for the next one in summer of 2025. In the meantime, you can hear directly from our program directors in their upcoming webinars. So we've got our impact measurement program director, Karim Harji's next webinar on April 15th at 2 p.m., where he will look at shifting perspectives around impact investing and impact measurement. Followed by, we've got our webinar with our Impact Finance Innovations Program Director, Ani Patton Power, and that is the state of innovative finance and charting a path forward. I will also drop in the chat our YouTube playlist. All of these webinars will be uploaded to this playlist. So if you do wish to revisit them or see any of the topics that we've discussed in the past or any other alumni perspectives, you can find them here. So if you are thinking about applying, just to go into which applications and which programs are coming up, you can start the application process by clicking on this QR code. And these programs do run once a year. So often in the same months, there are upcoming dates, for our impact portfolio that they tend to fill months in advance. And because we have a whole year to recruit for each one of them, it is really important, as Malek said, not to miss scholarship deadlines and to make sure that you're getting through, because onboarding for these programs usually starts about 6 weeks in advance. So if you are thinking of applying, reach out to any of us. So once again, a big thank you to Malek, Tommaso, and Christian for sharing with us today. And we will pass over our contact details, and I'll pass over to you, Christine.
Thank you so much, Toniel. And just to echo Toniel's remarks, thank you so much to our alumni panel today for sharing your insights and your inspiring stories. And thank you to our audience who stayed with us, especially all of you who stayed with us all the way to the very end. And we have our contact details here. You can take a screenshot of this to save our email addresses, or you can find us on LinkedIn if you wish by looking up our names. We share quite a lot of content on our LinkedIn, so be sure to give us a follow. And if you would like to apply to any of our programs, feel free to reach out to us. We can provide you additional details and just have a chat with you to see if it's the right fit for you, answer any questions you may have. And to those of you who are already thinking of applying to the impact measurement program, we do have a very special gift for you because you stayed with us all the way until the end. So this is our thank you. You can qualify for a 10% discount, and this is available until the 18th of April. So all you need to do to qualify for this discount is to start your application. And on page 3 of the application, where it says, how did you hear about us? You can select the option referral, alumni referral, and type in the code webinar 10. So it's webinar 10, all caps, 10, no space, and you can take advantage of this 10% discount. So that's all we wanted to share today. Thank you again for joining us. And I hope many of you are already thinking of applying to our programs. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Feel free to connect with our alumni panel as well. And we hope to see many of you on our programs this year.
Have a lovely week, everyone, and we will hopefully speak with you soon.
Yes, have a lovely rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Thank
Goodbye,
you.
everyone.